Hello, Steve from Cold's Handy Butchers here. Welcome back to my kitchen. Last week we did coq au vin. Thank you very much for all the lovely comments you left on there, especially those that applied to my pinny. Today we're going to do Scotch eggs. Now about 200 years ago, let me refer back to the classical reference, basically there isn't one. The French don't think Scotch eggs are worthy of a mention whatsoever. So, I had to look it up on Wikipedia. Apparently, about 200 years ago, a lady invented Scotch eggs. She put it in her cookery book, but at that point, they didn't have any breadcrumbs on. About 50 years, 60 years later, they had breadcrumbs put on them, made by, I believe, it's Isabella Beaton. Put the breadcrumbs on, and she put it in her book. They think that the name Scotch eggs came from the Londoners who, in Wellington Barracks, where the Scotch Guards were, they developed a taste for these things, and that's where the Scotch eggs comes from. Originally though, they were invented as a dinner dish, served hot with gravy. That is something like what we're going to do. Right, what I need to do now is give you the list of ingredients. Okay, what you will need for this is 1 egg per portion, 200 grams of sausage meat per portion, seasoned flour, another egg to breadcrumbs, a pan to boil the eggs in, a tray to pop them in the oven, and a small knife. And a slotty spoon, which is slightly deformed because of the last time I did this. You will also need 1 tin of spaghetti in tomato sauce. This quite obviously isn't spaghetti in tomato sauce, it's a can of tomatoes. But as I haven't got any spaghetti in tomato sauce, I'll be making some. If you have some spaghetti in tomato sauce, please feel free to use it. Otherwise, check out the other video. Right, first thing I'm going to do is get this pan of water on the stove and bring it to the boil. Don't worry about it, dear. No one will notice that there's a different number of eggs. I'm sure they won't notice the bowls either. Right, we've now got a pot of boiling water. Pro tip, get yourself a little knife with a nice pointy end on and tap the eggs, just the top of them. The reason why you tap them is a lot of the time when you boil eggs, the eggs crack. The reason for this is twofold. Number 1, the egg white expands. Number 2, there's some air inside the egg. If you put a little hole in there, when the egg white expands a bit, the air's got somewhere to go. And when I say tap, I do mean tap. Don't stab it, tap it. Right. Now, because we've tapped the eggs, there will be, we've actually weakened the eggs. So when you put them in, rather than drop them in, put them in and just roll them off the spoon when they get to the bottom. And as soon as they go in, you will see air escaping from the little hole you put in there. Right, these are large eggs. They will take 4.5 minutes to soft boil, 11 minutes for hard boil. You may notice that there's a couple of eggs missing, but that's because I will hard boil some because my wife doesn't like soft boiled eggs. She's awkward. Right, in there, 4.5 minutes. I'll see you then. Right, now we have soft boiled eggs. 4.5 minutes after putting them in the boiling water. As soon as that 4.5 minutes came, I transferred this pan to the sink, strained off the boiling water and poured cold water into it. Now the eggs are nice and cool. You may notice I've only got 5 eggs in here and 7 balls of sausage meat. The reason for that is because my wife is awkward. So I've done her 2 eggs, I did hers hard boiled, and they're somewhere else because I need to keep them apart so I don't get them mixed up. Right, now it comes to the shelling bit. This is really tedious. As soon as I crack this egg, it's going to be it's going to want the egg itself, the egg white is going to want to break open because the yolk is really soft inside. So what you've got to do is crack it all over, gently, all over the egg. To crack the shell. Then, very, very gently, start to peel the egg. Use the water to help you to get the water in between the membrane and the egg, and it should come apart fairly easy if you crack it all over. Now you can see this is still quite soft. Don't rush this or you will crack the egg and the yolk will come pouring out. Right, there's one done. Pop it back in the water. I'll come back to you when I've done the other 5. Okay, we're back with the nicely peeled eggs. Right, our eggs, they are free range eggs, but they come in a plastic container. You'd think that's bad, not in this case, because all of the plastic in this is made from recycled plastic from the sea. Also, it is 100% recyclable as well. So once you've finished with it, pop it in your recycling bin, send it away. They're free range, and I say large. Now, our pork sausage meat is also free range. The venison, definitely free range. With they're wild. That's why, unfortunately, we have to shoot them because they cause so much damage. So what I'm going to do now is pat out one of the balls of sausage meat, and all I'm doing basically is squeezing it and working from the middle outwards. And you want it large enough so you can wrap your egg in. So keep on squeezing it and squeezing it and squeezing it until it's the right size. Now, when I was in the army, we had a nickname for these things. It's a 2-word nickname. I won't say it on here because it's a bit rude. But you can probably work it out for yourself. It's a 2-word nickname. Think Scottish for the first word. Think it begins with the letter J and it rhymes with socks. And it's a slang word for a Scotsman. The second word, well, that begins with the letter B and it ends in bollocks. I'll let you work it out. Right, that's pretty much in the right size. Carefully lift out the egg. Shake off any excess water. Put it in. And now what you've got to do is tease the sausage meat up. And get it to join itself. It's all wrapped around now. Now we just got to work the sausage meat so it joins back again. Any little cracks, just squeeze up tease up some sausage meat until you have them all nicely wrapped up and there's no gaps. Ideally you don't want any splits in it, so just where there are splits, just work the sausage meat until the gaps have been filled. There we go, that's one done, and I'll see you in a few minutes once I've done the other ones. Okay, we're back. The more astute of you may have noticed that the number of eggs I've got to egg and breadcrumb has diminished. This is because I did one earlier just to check the system works, and the hard-boiled eggs I've kept separate because I don't want to mix them up. Right, if you are doing flour, egg and breadcrumbing on your own, you need to work, if you're right-handed, from left to right. You have a wet hand, your left one, and a dry hand, your right one. Wet hand is to handle the wet sausage meat and the egg. Dry hand is for the flour and the breadcrumbs. If you use 2 hands and do them all, you will end up with nice flour, egg and breadcrumbs fingers and hands 3 or 4 fold. So, left hand, wet one, into the seasoned flour. Get the seasoned flour, sprinkle it over. Rub it into the, roll it in the flour, shake off any excess flour, and then into the egg. Use your left hand, your wet one, and shake, rub the egg all over the Scotch egg. Again, shake off any excess. And then into the breadcrumbs. Dry hand. Shake off any excess and onto your tray. And carry on again. Wet hand, sausage meats, into the flour, right hand, dry hand, etc, 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 and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Right, now we come to the part where we actually cook the Scotch eggs. If you have a deep fat fryer, please use it. I don't. I did have, but my wife started complaining bitterly that the house smelt like a fish and chip shop. Personally, I don't have a problem with the house smelling like a fish and chip shop, but she does. Right, so what I've actually got is 1 litre of oil in here, and I keep the oil for deep frying separate in a little bottle marked deep fry. Once the oil's cooled down and I'm finished with it, I strain it off, put it back in there. I've got 1 litre of oil in about, it's either a 2.5 or a 3 litre pan. You want it no more than half full, less than half full. If you get this wrong, you could burn down your kitchen, so please don't. Alright, it's been on the heat, full gas, for 10 minutes. The way to check if it's hot enough, sprinkle some breadcrumbs in, they immediately frizzle. Brilliant, it's at the right temperature. Do not, as I did, use a plastic spoon, slotty spoon for this, because it got a bit modified. It might look quite cool, but it ain't no good. So, what you need to use is something metal. For safety reasons, you can only do these 2 at a time. So get your Scotch eggs, lower it into there, frazzles away beautifully. Second one in there. It's quite close to the top, but not dangerous, and it needs 2 minutes, no longer. Once they've had 2 minutes in there, I'm going to transfer them back onto the baking tray. I will then fry off the rest of them, and then I'll pop them into my preheated oven, preheated to 180, gas mark 4, and they will take 10 minutes, no more. So 2 minutes in the deep fat fryer, 10 minutes at 180, gas mark 5, job done, we're ready to serve. Right, here we go, service time. A few minutes ago, I put I added the other half of the sauce of the spaghetti, and I reheated that up. If you're using the tinned version, then just warm it up as you normally would. So that's that. Now, the Scotch egg bit. Take a Scotch egg, cut it in half, and pop it on the bed of spaghetti. Little sprinkle of parsley, and we're ready to go. Whilst I'm getting the other Scotch eggs out of the oven, I would like to apologise for the heckler that you may have heard at some point in the video. I've since removed our cat and popped her in the other room. Right, as my wife doesn't like runny eggs, I'd best give my knife a wipe. She also doesn't like spaghetti. She also doesn't like them hot. Not that she's fussy at all. So, I put them on a separate tray. But I also did them in a different shape, so they wouldn't get mixed up. Let's cut through this. And I give you a square hard-boiled Scotch egg. Who would have thought that that's what happened when they're hard-boiled? So there we have it. British Army style Scotch eggs served on a bed of spaghetti. And quite frankly, there's only one thing to have with a Scotch egg, and that is a pint of English ale. Enjoy!